Howdy, folks. Would you also need coffee.com here. Back again for another Wayhomer review. That's what we do. And here's how this works. I just left the cinema where I've seen a film, and I'm going to tell you about it on my way home. And the film that we're here to talk about today is Thor. And before I start talking about Thor, here's a little pro tip, friends. When you're throwing your 3D glasses into the recycling bin as you exit the theater, like a good cinema patron would, make sure you're throwing your 3D glasses into the bin and not your real sunglasses. Just a tip. Because otherwise you get to root through the bin. Alright, so Thor. So here's the synopsis, first of all. There's a guy, Thor, and he's more than a guy. He's the son of Odin. He's the god of thunder. He's that guy from Norse mythology, and he's real, and Asgard exists, and all that stuff. And he, apparently in Asgard's past, there was this war with the frost giants, and Asgard, well, basically the frost giants came to kick Earth's ass, Asgard kicked the frost giants' ass, and an uneasy truce, the kind of uneasy truce that happens post-ass-kicking, is in place. And Thor, because he is kind of like the guy who's never... The privileged rich kid who's also part frat boy and part, you know... I don't know. He's that... He's not a completely dickish version of that guy in the small town whose dad is the sheriff. Does that make sense? So basically, he is just immature and a bit of a prick. He, in his prickish, willful ways, causes this huge incident and manages to get his ass banished to Earth, which is Midgard, which is here. And then things proceed. That's enough of a synopsis. It's Thor. There's armor and a big hammer and stuff. Anyway, so there you go. So the deal is this. This, of course, is part of Marvel's very ambitious building a cinematic universe plan, which so far is going rather well, and appears to be quite successful for them. We've got this, and we've got Captain America, and then we've got the Avengers coming next year. So, we discussed this on the podcast. Part of the interesting thing about Thor is, on one hand, people who have read mythology and legends know Thor, the legend, the story, kind of. But as far as the Marvel Thor, it's kind of on par with Iron Man in that, you know, people probably... And I mean, here's the thing. Thor, basically, the version of Thor is like a public domain figure. I mean, there's been Thor in DC Comics. There's been Thor. Everybody's had a Thor. So, the Marvel Thor, though, is like Iron Man in that you have to kind of introduce people to who the hell this is, other than, you know, blonde guy with a hammer. So, yeah, so there's that to contend with, the whole mythology thing to contend with that you've got to hook people up with, and Asgard, and how all the 9 realms make sense, and all this stuff. So, how well do they do? Well, okay, first a couple things. Chris Hemsworth is a fine Thor, okay? He does rather well. He is believable. Anthony Hopkins is Anthony Hopkins. And he's in kind of... Okay, you know how Anthony Hopkins has modes, right? Like, when he is in paycheck mode, like in Bram Stoker's Dracula, he can, you know, just let rip with, like, here's the devil's concubine, wah! I mean, he could just completely put the pedal on the floor and not give a damn because he checks cash. Alright, but then there's, like, Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins. This is at least, because he's doing this for Branagh, I think he's somewhere in the middle. He is... Because he's Anthony Hopkins and doesn't need to try that hard to just do most anything, he's in the middle, so he's fine. Natalie Portman, although I've been told that despite the lack of red pajamas, doesn't have much to do, I thought she was fine. Stellan Skarsgård is good in it. He's well. Kat Dennings, who plays the cat, the Darcy, the younger woman, That she's funny. So the cast is all good. They did fairly well for the Asgardians. The guy that got to play Loki's good. And Idris Elba as Heimdall is okay, because he's Idris Elba and he rocks in everything he does. So all of the casting and everything and the setup is good. The way they kind of set up the backstory so we knew what the hell was going on was decent. There's a couple things, though. First of all, it's a bit distracting that Asgard was apparently built around a giant pipe organ. Okay, so there's that. Also, there's the distracting thing that you realize about halfway through the film that I cannot believe I paid for the 3D version of this. This is not happening. I mean, it's not Clash of the Titans bad, but it just sort of it didn't add to my experience. And generally, if I'm paying extra for something, I would like the extra to add to the experience. Call me crazy. So, I mean, there's that. But there's also certain story things that sort of bothered me. I mean, I understand why the Warriors 3 were there, but it just seemed kind of, I don't know, they were just kind of there. Except for Volstagg, who basically, is supposed to be your comic relief character. I'm funny because I eat a lot. And they made a point of that in that one scene, and it's Ray Stevenson. God help Ray Stevenson. I mean, he was a fantastic Punisher, so, I mean, it's not fair that he played a really great character in a crap Marvel film, and then he's playing a kind of character in a decent Marvel film. I mean, Ray, keep at it. Maybe when the Punisher rights revert, they can just do a decent Punisher film and use you. I'd vote for that. So, Ray, it's okay. But I mean, they were kind of distracting. I mean, I understand they were necessary to the plot. When you see it, you'll know why. So that sort of makes sense. But I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of characters to deal with, more so than in something like Iron Man, because it's like, okay, it's like in Iron Man 2. I mean, you've got War Machine, you've got these other characters coming in, but they just sort of gave you Iron Man to begin with. It just seemed a bit stuffed with people that you had all of Asgard introduced in Thor, and again, but the problem is, how do you get around that? I don't know. So I think they did a good job. Is this a film like Iron Man? I don't know how you feel about Marvel films at this point, but like Iron Man, I can watch Iron Man probably any day of the week because it's such a fun film and it's executed so well that it's got that kind of fun feel to it, Iron Man 2, glad I saw it, probably wouldn't watch it again. I feel kind of the same way about this one. I mean, throw a decent commentary on it, and sure, I'll watch it again, but I would not be sad if I never saw that film again. There are certain bits of it that I'd probably like to watch again. There's certain battle sequences. I mean, the fun only kicks in about an hour into the film. Once everything gets going and you've established the characters and you can kind of relax and let it go, then the fun sort of kicks in. But it's just, it doesn't have the feel all the way through it. Now, part of what I wanted from the film was a guy in armor with a giant hammer smacking frost giants in the face, and so I got that. So I can't really be pissed off at the film. But, I mean, it just sort of delivered decently. It didn't wow me. It didn't completely blow me out of my seat. It didn't thrill me like the original Iron Man. I don't mean to, I'm not holding up, I'm not trying to compare all the films together to try to be unfair to one or the other. But then again, Marvel is linking all these films together, so it needs to have sort of a kind of, feel to it. But that being said, I am still looking forward to Captain America. I would probably go watch a Thor 2. I'm looking forward to the Avengers. I'm fascinated to see how this works. Now, so boil it down to 3.5 cups, okay? Should you see it in theaters? Yes. Should you watch it in 3D? No. Should you save a few bucks and go catch a matinee tomorrow or Sunday? Tomorrow being Saturday, in case for some reason this takes forever to render? Sure. But yeah, I mean, it's decent. It's a fun summer tentpole blockbuster, but it just feels a little fluffy to me, and I wish there had been more there, I guess. I don't know. So, but it did not displease me. It pleased me. Just didn't thrill me. Did not wow me. And I was hoping for a little bit of that. And I only got it in just a few bits. So anyway, so there you go. Thor. That's the first big movie that people have questions about, and I hope that answers some of your questions. For those of you who watch these things, as always, thank you so much for doing so. There are plenty of YouTube videos, there's plenty of reviews out there, and you took some time to watch this, and we thank you for that. If you do get something out of this, please share it on Twitter, Facebook, Stumble Upon, MySpace, if any of you are still there. I don't know, isn't that like GeoCities now? I have no idea. But yes, so please share this with someone you love. Yeah, so we'll see you on the site. Needcoffee.com for all of your pop culture insanity. So I'm stopped for a second at a red light, so I'll take this opportunity to say bye.